李牧师. And yeah, so I'm not so much looking to talk the entire workshop because there are a lot of information out there already, and there's been plenty of topics discussed. But what I would love to do from my heart is really to have a heart-to-heart conversation about English ministry. I think probably the vast majority of the people here 都是牧者，都是牧者长辈教会里面的同工。And so, 我们可以一起来聊我们的经验嘛。No matter if it's like experience of success or failure or trial and error, I think it'll just be a much more productive conversation if we actually interact with each other. So that's the way I would like to approach this workshop, if you don't mind. So maybe in the first half or so, I'll I'll kind of introduce my background and what I do as an English ministry pastor. And then probably for the majority of the time, I would love to find out what's going on at your church, what God is doing at your church, and if there's anything that we can help each other with. Is that okay? All right. Um, just by a show of hands, how many are on the West Coast? Any West Coast, California? Yeah, a couple. How about in the middle? Like Texas area in the middle, and then East Coast, Florida. Okay, okay, great. So 我们都是 really 真的是北美的哈。Praise God. So I'll share screen. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Okay, can you see? Okay. So today, I title my workshop Real Talk about English Ministry within the context of the Immigrant Church. I assume that we're all from Immigrant Church. 大家都是华人教会嘛. None of us are from like Asian American churches that only speak English, right? So, and why do I put real talk is because I also want to talk about, the difficulties, the challenges, and some of the harder conversations that we tend not to have around the English ministry. So just a little bit of background about myself. I immigrated here from Taiwan in 1988. 那时候是来这边念小学，那时候8岁来这边念3年级的啊。And so I grew up in Orange County pretty much all my life. Lived in the city of Orange, and then now I'm in Lake Forest, but I serve the church in Irvine. I went to UC Irvine. I graduated with a studio art degree, and I was the class of 2002. And usually people are very surprised. 我是艺术系毕业的. People always think I'm like a bio major or engineering, but no, I'm an artist actually. So after I graduated, I did graphic design for a bit. I did product illustration, product design, web design, graphic design, and that sort of stuff. And it was all very good. I did enjoy it, but the Lord just put uh, heart to really serve Him in my heart, and so I went and pursued a TESOL certificate, which is teaching English to students of other languages, so I could become an English teacher to do missions. Basically, 我拿那个证书是为了宣教. And so I went to Biola, graduated there in 2005. And then I went to Taiwan as a missionary for a year. 就好像为主当兵1年那种概念。那时候回到台北 and then 被差派到内湖去植堂 to plant a church. And when I came back to the United States, I wanted to just actually go into a corporate job because I didn't do too well, I don't think, in Taiwan. And but the Lord immediately just opened up a position, and I got invited into GLEC, which is 不是丰盛生命中心. It's a 华人的宣教机构, and I was in there as a mission mobilizer. 宣教动员的动员就是下一代一起来做宣教. In 2015, felt the Lord lead me to a local church, EFC Irvine, which is 台福 爱恩财福基督教会。And I'm the English ministry pastor there, and I'm also the missions pastor there as well. So that's my background for ministry, and that'll play a big context in what I'll share. And this is my family, my wife Amy, and I got 4 kids. This was a picture taken in Big Bear a couple years ago. So yeah, I'm blessed with a family. So all right, so now into the ministry aspect. So I'm the English ministry pastor, and it's a pretty typical English ministry, I would say. Some of the things that we do on a regular basis, almost every year, we would go to Big Bear Mountain for our winter retreats, and our EFC 台福教会我们在南加州特别有差不多十几20个台福教会，and so we would invite all the English ministries, and we would go and do a big camp uh, for the young people for the next generation, and that evolved also into like family ministry. So now it's like whole entire families that would go to winter retreats. This something we also do is like our graduation banquets for our seniors, high school seniors. When they graduate from 12th grade, we do a big banquet for them, and we do a big program just to celebrate um, a big milestone in their achievement. And usually when they go off to college, the majority of them don't stay in Irvine because Irvine is kind of like a bubble, uh, and people, the young people want their freedom, so they'll go to NorCal, they'll go to LA, they'll go to East Coast for their college. So usually the graduation means we won't be seeing them for a long, long time. So something that we also do is a art gallery ministry. I mentioned that I was a studio art major, so I wanted, and I found that a lot of times, 在我们华人里面的年轻人哈，其实很多都很喜欢画画。So we created a art gallery a couple years ago. And when visitors come, this is actually a big attraction. Visitors they don't know people, right? 他们也不认识任何人，那好像就一个人站在那边，如果没有招待跟他们讲话的话，他们也有点尴尬，所以就是有个东西给他们看啊，感觉上不会那么尴尬哈。We also do like career workshops for adults, for our working adults. So it's not just a youth ministry, not just a young adult ministry. In fact, when I first became an EM pastor, it was mostly youth and young adult. But because I'm not in that life stage, I do have kids. So because we do have kids, we tend to attract families that have kids. So we get more and more family units into our EM ministry. So the average age got older and older and older as the years passed. So right now the demographic would be about half would be young people and half would be adults in their 40s and 50s. Something we did last year, trying to find a way to unite the whole church because we have 5 different congregations, and a lot of times it's hard to have unity between the different congregations. And so last year, actually this year, Valentine's Day, this is the first time we ever did a Valentine's Day dinner at church, to create like a 很浪漫的一个环境哈，让大人让那个husband and wife can come and have a gourmet dinner and 我们的长辈就是在厨房里面煮这些牛排啊等等的，然后我们的年轻人就是当 waiter and waitresses 来 serve and actually it was a very meaningful event. So I'm just sharing some sort of some ministry so that you get to get a gist of what we do. And so every year, of course, we share the gospel and we get young people, not just young people of all ages get baptized. And but it's mostly young people because when the context of EM and a few adults also get baptized when we share the gospel with them. So that's something that we value very much to confirm their faith and bring them in. We also do things like worship training conferences. We would invite like maybe 4 or 5 churches near us and would say, hey, you know what? We want to train up the next generation to serve, right? Because for us, 我们流动率非常的高，因为一到12年级，大家毕业的时候，他们就出去上大学了，所以很多在 EM 里面服侍的年轻人，哎，一下子就不见了，train 上来，然后就不见了。So actually we have to constantly train up new people, and it's not true just for our churches, but for surrounding churches as well. So we partner together, we collaborate, and we'll do like a 1 day worship training conference, and we invite like songwriters and professional like worship leaders to come and give us workshops. And we also have like harvest festivals for Halloween, for outreaches, trunk or treats, and also 因为我们是台福教会，我们也有一个台福总会，and so my role in there is also to help facilitate discussion among English ministry pastors. We're fortunate enough to have a good group of EM pastors that can support one another. I know not every church has that. But if you are in a denomination, do take advantage of that because we try to spend quality time together on a monthly basis, pray for each other, to update one another on our ministry, our families, our personal needs, and we get together. Yeah. Do things like Team World Vision, Global 6K for Water, also something that unites the different congregations together to run for water together. We would do inner city missions, like 1 week-long mission trips, go to inner cities like LA Skid Row or San Francisco Tenderloin District, bring young people, bring teams there, challenge their faith, get out of their comfort zone. This is one big part of the discipleship process that we have for our young people. We have to go out. We also try to connect with our city. This is Love Irvine, a part of the Love Our City movements. We try to get connected with like city officials and develop good relationship and serve together in the city with different churches, nonprofit organizations, and also have the support of City Hall and the mayor and city council members. And so we put quite a bit of time and effort into this as well. We try to be light for the city. And so with this is not just in the context of Chinese church. This you have to kind of get out there and get with your community. And a big part of what we do is missions, cross-cultural missions. We go to Mexico mission almost every month for our church because we're close to the border. So this is something we do. Church planning, construction, building churches, homeless ministries, you name it, we probably have it in Mexico mission. This is probably our biggest mission field. And also, this is Nepal mission, something that I've been involved with. And I've been there about 5 times. And this is our effort into reaching unreached people tribes, unreached people groups. There was a movement and like 有一些华人教会要一起做宣教的时候，会讲到说一会爱一族，就是一个教会爱一个少数民族，未得之名。And so we adopted a 未得之名哈米族在尼泊尔，and so we would go there and encourage them and do a lot of leadership training and things like that. And finally, this is this PowerPoint 还是热的哈，因为这个我们的团队才刚回来而已from Taiwan mission. We have a team of about 25 people going together, and something more unique about this team that it was made up of parents and kids going together. 以前的像这种暑假的团队都是年轻人回去教小朋友嘛，传福音。但是这一次都是家长有负担，带着自己的孩子，要让他们可以被培养起来，所以 it's a more unique dynamic. So that's just kind of like an overview of what we do at our English ministry. So just want to share that a little bit. And some of the things that perhaps we can touch upon about real talk about English ministry are probably, for example, I'll just kind of read off and if you have any questions, you can ask. like for example, things that I would do differently or mindset that have changed over time. I've been EM pastor for almost 10 years, and for sure there are things that I would do differently if I could hop on a time machine and go back and change it. Okay. And also willing to have hard conversations about certain things, and also letting go of past failures, things that we have tried to do and failed, but just have to let it go and move forward. And also realistic expectations of what English ministry can do and cannot do. And definitely there's a lot to talk about in that. And also, a lot of times if we are in a smaller size church and lack resources and manpower and volunteers, how can we collaborate with other churches and organizations in an effective way? So I'm big on collaboration. I'm big on church unity. I'm big on, like, don't reinvent the wheel. If someone else is doing it, why don't we partner up together? Okay. So actually, I want to kind of pause a little bit and kind of see if there's any questions, or actually, I would love to know a bit about you. So if you're willing, just share about your context and what your relationship with EM is. Are you an EM pastor? Do you serve it with the English speaking? Is that okay? So any周牧师，要不要周牧师先开始？
我在中礼堂做这个主任牧师。那我们现在正在开始往这个English 这个 ministry 这个方向前进，所以我们正在处于招聘这个英文牧师的状态。那我们的教会就是不到200多人，其实也是存在这个瓶颈，就是我们感觉到我们牧养青少年，还有一些英文的成人是有挑战的，所以我们也希望借着这个建立这个英文的这个 ministry 来有一些新的突破，所以这也是今天我为什么特别想来听听的原因。我们现在有个长老在负责 youth ministry，然后 English 的这个 ministry 呢，只有一些美国的同工，有时我也盯着，所以这是我们目前的挑战。
好
我觉得
，OK。
今天
那现在
他挺
有 English Ministry 吗？就是礼拜天有英文的崇拜吗？
我们是两种语言，就是隔一周是专门的英文的信息，然后同时都是同步翻译在台上，中文和英文。嗯
哦，OK，
嗯，
所以算是一个 bilingual service，就是了
也 bilingual service，也主要还是普通话为主。嗯
是是，所以每一周都是 bilingual，只是说
嗯，
one week is preaching Chinese translating to English，然后另外一
对
个 week 是 vice versa 这样子是吗
，yes that's right。嗯
？OK OK，
嗯，
所以目标是想要有一个 independent 的 English service，
对对
是这样吗？
对，所以我们就想了解English ministry 的这个挑战呐、或者开始就是然后跟这个中文堂原有的中文堂一些关系或者是这个一些的怎么样的一个互动甚至包括人员
是，
设置所以你今天这里
好，
讲的应该都是能对给我们有启发和帮助的。
好，好，谢谢你，谢谢。
嗯
另外一位是陈华伟牧师是吗？
沈华伟you can
哦，
call
沈
me
华伟
David。
，sorry Sorry，我中
Yeah,
文不
no
好，
problem.
对不起。
Yeah，我在北加，我在 San Francisco。那其实今年暑假过了，我刚好在 full time ministry as a children youth pastor 1周年。那it's interesting 我也是从台湾来的。那我过去十几年是在矽谷工作，那上帝也呼召我进入全时间的侍奉。那我原本预备自己是要做一个，毕竟我不是在这里长大的啦，我是来读研究所，在这里结婚生孩子定下来，所以我原本预备自己要成为一个华语堂或者说牧养讲中文群体的一个牧师，但是God just opened an opportunity for me to become children youth pastor at Golden Gate Church。那我
嗯，
们教会有3个语言Mandarin、Cantonese、English。4个 ministry group 加上一个 ministry 就是 children and youth。So it's complex in a way that the children's parent is in all other 3 congregation，所以他们不
是，
在我手上。 但是
Right.
我会需要照顾孩子跟青年。那其实我进去3个月之后，我就发现 I need to somehow take care of parent, otherwise 我只是让 program 再继续运作。那但是其实会有一个拉扯，就是如果说不同堂会有不同的方向的时候，就很难走在一起。那 a lot of things is all good thing. Adult Sunday school, prayer meeting, everything is good. But among all the good, how you choose the priority and have the consensus and unity, it becomes very difficult. 所以这是我的 context, 我的 unique context. So
Right, right. Yeah, and this is something maybe I can just kind of, as we have the conversation, I think if I just kind of give a little bit of feedback and sharing of experience, maybe that'll be more helpful before I forget all the everything people share. Um, but that is something I think that's very common in the beginning stages of a EM ministry, is that parents will drop off their young people into the youth group or on the English side and go back to their Chinese side. And that's very common. And what we see, and that's okay if English is a language that they struggle with, they don't understand very much, then by all means, like, go back to the Chinese congregation, it's fine. But sometimes we do encourage the parents, if English is, if they're fluent, if they work here in America, usually they're fluent and they have no problem of comprehension. What the parents in our church do is when they enter youth, like 从6年级升到7年级的时候，这就是一到6年级他们在儿童堂，但是从6年级以上7年级到12年级的时候，他们就会到英文堂去聚会。那父母亲就会跟着他们，就是趁这几年他们可以一起worship God 的时候，他们就会来英文堂。然后呢，他们可能待在这边陪他们差不多6年的时间哈。And then when they graduate to college, some of these parents, they'll go back to the Chinese congregation. But they'll stay in the English congregation for like 4 or 6 years, and 那英文牧师、英文传道就可以utilize them as 同工嘛。So sometimes that's the case as well. So that's a way to foster, like, get more manpower
所以
from the
其他
Chinese
堂
side.
会的牧师要肯放手。
Yeah，就是要有看见啊，要不然英文堂永远不会成长。如果说家长跟牧者都觉得说啊，反正有一个英文牧师就好了，actually 一个人很难 grow anything into like a self-sustaining ministry. It's nearly impossible. It's just too much. Yeah, so 我会鼓励就是说yeah, Chinese pastor 那边愿意就是说 OK, this is a stage of their life. 趁他们有孩子是在这个青少年 window 的时候 allow them to do family worship together in the English congregation, and they'll come back eventually. Yeah. OK, 谢谢包伟牧师的分享，还有George 牧师可以
你好，
稍微自我介绍一下吗？
你好，我是弟兄，我不是牧师。
哦，是，好，弟兄。
我是香港出生。I rather speak English. My Chinese is tiger horse horse. Yeah. Well, actually, today I come because I want to learn. And I came from Chinese Bible Church of Maryland, the same church with Hugo.
Yes.
So he asked me to come because he think that I will learn a lot more. But I serve in the church, but I spend most of my time on English side with students. Actually, the ministry that I serving kind of different. Deaf people cannot speak. So I doing a lot of English training and discipleship and of course sharing gospel and do a lot of mission work outside. And then I also lead the church short-term mission. That kind of involvement that I'm in. As far as English, I think we have done all those things that you talk about, and I think what I found the challenge is that to sustain the same worker. In other words, we have people transition. So we have, pastor, director of children department, as well as they rotate. So I think during that process, what I found is we lost a lot of kids. Whenever the director, the children department, the workers shift, and I don't think we have a good hand how to deal with that. Maybe something you can share with your experience. So right now we are looking for directors on the English side. We do have English pastor. Interesting enough that even though we're a Chinese church or Chinese Bible church, the congregation majority speaking are English speaker. That's interesting. So I think with Hugo came in about 6 years ago, we have increased more English pastor. And right now, we have, we have 3 English pastors. And then we still look for children department, we need director. So I think we try different things. But I think one of the areas that I found that very challenging is that we can keep all the kids as they grow up in the church, but when they enter to college, if we don't have a fellowship in that school, we tend to lose them eventually. Meaning that we lost touch with this kid who grow up with us, and then it come back to the family. How strong relationship and how much influence that our kid. So that is the kind of a situation I think it happened in many churches. I think the challenge is that when they become 18, they entering into college, that's the time that we need to focus more how to kind of help them, our children, able to continue intentionally to keep them into the church life. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and I'll just respond to that real quick. I think the first 3 months of their college life is the most important because they transition there. They don't know anything on campus. They don't know what kind of friends they're gonna make. And I always encourage our graduating seniors, you have to find a strong college fellowship to plug into. You tell them to go to like a church that's outside of campus, sometimes it's more difficult because they don't have a car, they can't drive, they don't know the people there, they feel awkward. But a college fellowship, especially like Chinese Christian Fellowship, CCF, or AA, like Asian American Christian Fellowship, or InterVarsity, or Crew, or Navigators, those are people in the same life stage. Those organizations are actively recruiting these new freshmen, so they're very passionate and welcoming. And I think the first 3 months, if they don't get plugged in, the chances are they're not going to get plugged in after that. The chances become less and less and less over time. So for us, we know we can't be like helicopter parents and helicopter pastors that are always in their life once they're in college, because honestly, some of them, they just want to seek freedom. They're like, oh, I've been in this like religious institute for too long. I just want to find my own way. And some of them will go off and be a prodigal son and daughter for a while and then come back. There are those, but for those that can be kept in the flock, I think first 3 months is really crucial. Like calling them, texting them, hey, have you found a good fellowship yet? Yeah, I'm praying for you, Yeah, have you tried this? Have you tried that? And when they do get plugged in, then things are a lot more secure, you know. Then they can have accountability groups that they have, and if they get plugged in, I would say then their faith starts going like this. Because now it's their own choice. Now it's their own faith. It's no longer their mom and dad's faith. But if
Right.
they don't get plugged in, it goes the other way.
Right.
Yeah, there's very few that just kind of maintain. They either go up or they go down.
Right.
Yeah.
I can't agree with you more. That's why in our church, at least for the past 4 years, during the pandemic, we couldn't do much. But I think one of the areas that we intentionally do is to collaborate with other organizations like AFC, like Navigator, so that we can extend, our support network into the colleges that are nearby our church. I mean, we are in Washington, D.C., so we have about 11 universities and colleges around. And I truly agree with you. We need collaboration. Not a single church can do all that. We have to work together with other, organization in order to accomplish, to tackle the challenges that you have just mentioned. Thank you for your reminding.
Right, right. Yeah, I think it's really important, especially for us pastors, to know where to find resources. And a lot of times, because I don't know, maybe sometimes we tend to want to create our own brand, our own kingdom. And I think that's a trap. Been there, done that. I think it's a big waste of time. Because we're all really brothers and sisters in the same kingdom. And if we don't have to reinvent the wheel, why do we keep doing it, you know? So yeah, partnership is huge in my mind. 我们有李业基牧师跟我们在一起。李业基牧师愿意自我介绍一下吗？ You're muted.
对不起，有一些 technical difficulties。
OK
对不起，对不起。
不会不会。好，还有没有人愿意自我介绍一下？如果要 share some things about English ministry or have any questions?
I do. Go ahead. Oh, okay. Go ahead. Okay, thank you. I do wanted to because, okay, I'm the mom. That's kind of like 在我们的教会里头现在是管 youth 的啊，我自己有3个孩子，现在2个还在 youth group. And I don't have question, but I really have a very need. Like we do the church-wise, like we do gospel meeting. The Chinese congregation always able to invite speakers, but then our youth group, is pretty good size as well. So I need a speaker, and I have found challenging to find second generation speaker that come and speak to our youth. On the youth, like we contain some is grow up in church, but some is also seekers from the community. Occasionally, we also have someone like as different nationality, Indonesia or Indian. So that's my biggest need right now. So
To find speakers.
Yeah, find a speaker,
that's interesting.
second generation. Because then some of the Chinese is too old, right? I don't want someone that really like 60 and 70 come and speak. I want someone that's more relatable to the kids. They are in touch with the kids' language, the younger generation. So, I definitely want to contact you. That's another thing. Like I don't have much contact here with English speaker.
Where are you?
Oh, I'm in Memphis, Tennessee.
Memphis. Oh my. There's Chinese people in Memphis?
Oh my. Yes, we do.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
I mean, in Memphis, there's a lot of like 外国人的教会, right? I mean, it's Bible Belt over there. And
Sure,
so
sure, yeah.
so I think maybe having like I don't know if there's like
美国人
yeah, Mego and the speaker that you guys can get connected with.
we can, but I think see like our youth group since our church like started, I do find our kids find certain identity because that they are Asian. They are different from say the other kids that have different nationality, and they love to stick together and they actually influence each other quite well. So having an Asian speaker or someone that can relate to them is very important.
I see.
So that's what,
Okay.
yeah.
Let me ask you, are there
Okay.
Korean churches around?
Yeah, we do actually. Why we don't have any contact with the Korean church? Okay, that's
Because
a good point.
usually the Koreans are about 10 to 20 years ahead of the Chinese
Ahead of us.
church in terms of
Correct.
English ministry.
Mm,
And so usually they have more resources and more pastors. At least I know that's true in Southern California. Korean churches are bigger. They're more they just been here longer than us in terms of like English
mm,
ministry. So I would think
right.
I mean, at least in
Okay.
SoCal, they're 20 years ahead. And so I would suggest maybe look into Korean pastors, Korean churches, resources, making friends with them and invite them over. Because a lot of the immigrant issues that we Chinese deal with, same thing as Koreans. Exactly the same
Correct.
thing. No difference. Especially on the English side, there's no difference at all. Yeah. So look into Korean churches or maybe even if there's like Japanese churches, Filipino churches, and anything that's just Asian background. I think they'll be able to relate, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Mhm.
And sometimes it's just, you know, an issue of just going out there and networking. So
Yeah.
maybe if you want to, you know, get in touch, I'll see if anybody here knows if anybody here knows of pastors or speakers, doesn't even have to be pastors, right? It could be
Yeah.
just
Speaker,
young
right? A good
adults, young
speaker.
adults that love
Mhm.
God, you know,
Yeah.
young adults that
That's
love
right.
God around the Memphis, Tennessee area. I'm sure among all the pastors here, we know someone, you know, so share resources with one another, even on this call.
Let me know if you have any further information. Thank
Right.
you.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't know anybody in Memphis, Tennessee. I think you're the only person I know.
我们教会有的时候用那个 Right Now Media 的那个里面
We
有
do.
很多
我们也有。
resource，yeah，它有一个经常是有一些个
但是
talk 是有很多。
但不一样嘛，就是 in person 的 talk 用 right now media。我们平时 Friday night study 我们用 right now media。Yeah, I want a real speaker.
Right. Yeah. 了解啦，就是 when you lack real people is like that's the second best option. But I think the
Yeah.
key in using right now media is having really good discussion follow-up. Like the person, you know, you can watch it for 15, 20 minutes, but the person leading the follow-up discussion is really important. Like in asking, you know, good questions. Yeah. 好，谢谢。王牧师is with us. 你好。
你好，你好，很高兴听到台福英文部的牧师现在已经发展的这么快了，我只是要分享，我是老华侨了，我在国语教会、广东教会还有英语教会都牧养过，那我是跟大家分享，我在罗省华人美医美会哈，在中国城那边，大概你们都见过哦。那个教会今年是庆祝130多年了，快要140年了。
哇，
是华人的教会，最老的都是讲台山话、中山话、莆田话的，有些连广东话都不会讲了。那我是跟大家分享， 我们130多年来英文部是怎么办的？
好，
初期就像刚刚刘牧师讲的，都是这样，就孩子从儿童主日学、青少年主日学，然后young adult，然后成为英文部，但是英文部呃有些现在已经很多代了，你说第6代、第7代，那怎么办呢？文化完全不一样啊，所以我们的策略呢是直英文堂啊。
嗯，
我们把那个主力的童工都是英文的哦，很强的，就送出去了，送在 Orange County，他们已经独立30-40年了，他们的文化已经几乎都是美国人了。如果
是
你讲到中国人，大概就有吃 Chinese food，然后去中国旅游，去台湾旅游，这是他们能够跟中国人认同的文化。所
是，
以思想上，其实你去 Orange County 呈现很多大的华人教会都是第1代的，其实他们是第3、4、5、6代的华人，他们只有英文，所以在呈现有些大的教会是英文为主，开始植国语堂，植广东堂，呃，
是是
所以我是告诉大家了，我们有不同的策略，我们开始在中文部下面有英文部，或者是中文部里边有分中文部跟英文部，或者广东部，这都好。但是到更多代以后，这样还是没办法维持，因为文化实在是不一样了。所以
是是是
我们的策略是把它丢出去了。他们现
是
在也是认同，我们是母会，他们是独立的教会，但是他们是完全独立了。如果我
是
们有需要跟他们连结有关英文要一起办，可以请他来支援我们。所
是是
以变成不同的，所以也不一定要说到韩国人或者西班牙人或者其他的英文的，你去洛杉矶有纽约都有从中国教会直支去的英文堂，很强的。你去 Orange County 有几个，但是我知道台湖教会现在30-40年而已了。但是你要看看以后到了100年、130年，像我们快140年了，那个策略我们是这样的，我们是在辛苦当中学出来的，所以我
是是
是跟你们分享，的确文化是不一样了，
是
那你在管理上文化不一样，在那个权力在分工方面不太容易的，会
是是
挣扎的。好，
是，
这是我会分享到这里。我想
好好。
你们大概目前没有这些问题，感谢主了。
好，谢谢
对，
王牧师。呀，真的就
好，
是第一批的华人在这边真的是已经100多年了哈。那每一个教会的 life stage 都不一样。刚刚周牧师说，they're bilingual church and just getting the English ministry started, and some churches 6 generations already, and so for sure it's not gonna look the same. And我们台服现在是差不多54年了，我们是差不多1970开始的，so about 54 years. And 在一个 denomination 54年了，this is our experience. About 20 years ago, we've tried to plant English only churches. Lasted about 5 years, and then it died down. 陆陆续续的有差不多三次 church plant for pure English ministry. It all died because it was detached from its mother church, perhaps too fast, too soon, and so it all closed down. Currently, there are 2 purely English speaking only 海福教会，但是 I would say 他们没有什么，就是跟总会没有什么太多的连接，跟其他的台服教会也没有什么太多的连接，因为 because they're English only，其实这2个教会的牧者都是韩国人，而不是台湾人，所以这些韩国的主任牧师也没有跟我们就算是英文部的 牧者也都没有什么来往跟沟通，and so it's definitely in a rough stage right now in terms of like trying to plant English only churches. But I do agree eventually. I think when a denomination hits like 70 years old, 80 years old, you have to start planting English only churches, or else it's just too difficult.
我再跟你分享一下，我们现在那个在 Orange County 的英文堂啊，独立的英文堂，是我的儿子在美国生的，是第二
哦，
代的。你要考
是是是
虑用你台服哦，一定要培养自己的美国生的孩子。当然，可能你
是是
们在美国生的孩子还年纪很小了，但是可能有啊，一定有，你慢慢培养啊，将来他们就可以成为台服第二代英文堂的继续的，因为他这样
是
跟母会的血液连通是在一起的，所以这
是是
是个像我儿子，不容易培养了，那个也不多，在美国生的孩子要奉献传福音的也不是那么多了，是
是是，
有了，但是美国生的跟台湾生的不太一样了，真的是不
对对对，
太一样，我不知道怎么解释。
这是真的啊，是真的啊，文化完全不一样啊，思想路线也完全不一样。我了解，王
我
牧师，你的
认同，我说认同你，我认同，我是华人，我是台湾来的，他认同他是美国人了、这
是
个他在教育上就基本上有不一样，但是我们愿意在一起互相帮助，一起传扬神的福音也是很好的，所以这是
是
我的看到，而且我现在那个儿子在奉献，他已经10年了，他是在 Cornerstone，在 Orange County，在 Placentia。所以他牧羊跟我们去牧羊就不一样了，他能够
是是是
吸收那个样的道，跟他文化
是
是一样，在美国生的，所以他现在年轻人很多哦，都是些样的道，这个我们吸引不到的。
哦
好，谢谢。
，Cornerstone，你儿子叫什么名字啊
John Mark Wayne，
？John Mark，OK，
王主道，主耶稣
是是，
的主，道路的道，王主道牧师，你们可以
好好
上网 Cornerstone UMC or Placentia，你可以里边看看他们的，他们都是就有英文的了。
是是是，
谢谢，
好好，
谢谢。
谢谢谢谢，好，谢谢王牧师的分享。Yeah，其实 one of the things I want to share is like if I would go back 10 years and try to do things differently, what would I do? And because I came from a missions background, 我是蛮冲的啦，就是 you know just wanting to go out there and get the gospel out and do a lot of missions work and stuff. And so when I first got to the EM, I organized a lot of different events for people to participate. But I found that they were not participating. 很多时候我只能拉到一两个人跟我一起去而已，whatever thing I was trying to do. And I think the reason was in the beginning stages, actually, we didn't have that relationship of trust. They didn't know who I was. I didn't know who they were. And I don't know anything that's going on in their life, but I was trying to mobilize them to do a lot of different ministries. And that didn't really work. And so if I would go back in time, I think as a new English pastor or an English director or a youth director in the initial stages, you really, really have to spend time to get to know them. 就是有关系就没关系啊，没关系就有关系。And that's especially true for young people. 我觉得对大人来讲 maybe sometimes it's true, but sometimes 大人比较 they can get together for a project, no problem. But for young people, it's like, who are you? Why should I do things with you? I don't know you. I don't trust you. You don't know me. Um, and I think that's where we have to learn about just having the heart of a pastor, 一个牧者的心肠。其实这个哇，我觉得非常难诶，我觉得非常难，要花好几年去学习有这样一个牧者的心肠啊，所以我对各位牧者有牧者心肠的牧者特别的佩服，特别的敬畏，because it's such a hard thing to learn. Yeah. I think one more thing that I would do differently is willing to have hard conversations. Because I think the personality just is, try to get along with everybody, try to keep everybody in harmony, try not to offend people, try to keep everybody happy and keep everybody coming. But I found that, and so therefore I would try to avoid a lot of the hard conversations that's been going on in society. What's been going on in the school and politics and whatever. But I found that ignoring it actually is 有负面的效果，有很多负面的效果。Like for example, back in 2000 when the pandemic was going on and all the BLM Black Lives Matter stuff was happening, I think in the beginning stages I try to avoid it because I was like, well, our youth they're gonna have a lot of different opinions. I don't want to get into all that politics stuff. But in avoiding those hard conversations, it actually created a lot more conflict. And the young people were like, hey, how come you don't speak up? Silence is violence. If you don't talk about it, you're doing violence to this group of people. And actually that incident caused our young people to split. There was a huge fallout, huge conflict, and it actually caused a big division. And half the people left. And so that was a very heartbreaking moment for us as a congregation, as a church. And I didn't have the leadership to deal with that type of thing. And so 那当然像这种事情是要 you have to be prepared for it. If it just sneaks up on you, it's really hard for you to have conversations. But knowing our society, what it is right now, everything is very polarized. Everything is so, everything you do, half the people get mad at you. So we can only choose the side of righteousness, choose the side of biblical truth. And if people get mad at you, then they get mad at you. And if they leave, if they choose to leave, I can only say, I pray that you'll come back one day, but here's the truth that we're standing on. We're not gonna change just because culture changes, So that's one really tough lesson for EM ministry. 好啦，我也不想就是一直讲我自己的东西哈。So if there's anything you want to share, if there's any questions you want to ask, I want to use like the last 15 minutes to interact more.
Yeah, I am very thankful for Casey that you share the mission mind versus mission mission trip. Yeah. I was 我已经很老了哈，我可以当你的祖母哈。Yeah, yeah. 我是在芝加哥哈，这边比较芝加哥的郊区，所以中西部是比较保守啦。那那个宣教哈很难做起来，所以我是有在那个芝华哈，还有那个cross culture 那个穆斯林事工哈，那个国际爱慕哈，那所以呢，我在教会4年的那个执事哈，做的怎么说啊？应该说蛮对我自己来自我评价是蛮失败的，因为我就是有这个。因为有受过训练，就知道说这个 mind 那个 mission mind 是才能够长远，而不是一个 mission trip。Yeah， 那我就看到，你刚才也有提到那个整个 family 哈为单位哈，就是 family base mission trip。Yeah， 那我这一次刚从多伦多回来哈。 我儿子呢，也很感恩呐、神感动他，就出来 full time，那个做那个牧养的工作哈。他原来是律师啊，然后他现在在那个多伦多那边的教会，我刚就是很孝顺哈，来接我们，所以有这个机会去看看他们的教会。是在那个 Richmond Hill 哈，是在那个多伦多的郊区，大概4、5千人吧，非常大的教会。然后呢，他们同工大概有40、50人，就是牧养的同工。那我就看到我儿子哈，我儿子今年是51岁，快52岁，所以不晓得跟你年龄大概也相仿这样，或者是比你大一些。然后我就看到他跟我媳妇在那个教小孩哈，他们前5年哈，就是小孩子小，就是homeschooling， 然后做什么就是整个，所以他现在在教会那个做那个宣教的那个牧师哈，他呢也是一个家庭为单位。就是做什么事情，就那个小朋友都包括他自己要讲道的时候，都分派一些工作给他们小孩子有份这样子。所以呢，家庭祭坛啊、敬拜啊，就是这样。所以他在牧会的时候，他们整个教会，他才刚去没多久哈，2年吧，2年多哈，就很喜欢，就是这个有关系啦，可能他就是这个。跟那个教会的那个就是从那个认识这个关系开始，所以他们教会也这个做这个不是只有他们英文堂哈，就是起先的这个广东堂哈，这个开始设立的这个牧师很有那个国度观哈，所以他们一直没有说强调是他们广东堂。他们就是一个非常有目标的来支持这个英文事工，而不是当做一个 babysit， 等到孩子长大了到高中了才有这个 English ministry。他们是非常有目的的这样，所以这样子做的非常荣耀神啊！我就看到那个英文事工，真的是我这一次去了哈，看到真的是非常感恩说。呀，这个世代哈，我虽然看见很多负面，就像刚才那个副牧师所分享的哈，呀，那可是这个神仍然继续兴起这个年轻的一代哈，真的这个牧养的这个，特别是在这里长大的孩子哈，我真的很感动就是去了也看到他们的祷告会，也去参加他们的小组会啊。我儿子所属的这个小组的那个小组长，他是一个 mission 的 deacon 哈，结果呢，他就放一个影片，他们的聚会就是不是说是很爱主，可是你不会像平常这样很有压力，就一定是圣经啊怎样？他这次就分享他们一个家庭，这个 mission deacon 就是要下来的这个。他们就用那个他们的假期10天就到 Mississippi 一个非常需要帮助贫穷的地方呢，就去帮助他们刷上那个修他们没有那个贫困的，没有那个什么电炉啊什么，就接线啊这样，就那个painting 啊，大小都参加。哎呦，我真的是觉得说这样小孩子从小就是在 mission 呢，很感动感恩呀。
谢谢明梅姐的分享。刚刚你讲到说 ，What's the difference like having a mission trip and a mission heart, right? And that is very important in that mission trip is temporary, right? But I find that mission trip is a good catalyst, a good starting place, because they cannot have a mission heart without the mission trip first to spark the fire and ignite the passion in their heart. And so I think that is always the goal to do a mission trip right. I think there's a way to do mission trip wrong, because a wrong way to do it is to kind of treat it like a vacation. then that would be wrong. Just okay, vacation wanted, okay, go back to my normal life. But how do we follow up? How do we design a mission trip in a way that really challenge their faith? That is not just all fun and games, but it's really like you need to take a step of faith. Okay, and now you need to share your testimony. You need to go out and talk to this person that you don't know, and that's really going to challenge them. And eventually growing that into a missional lifestyle, I think that would be the goal. But it does take years and years. So I think that's a realistic expectation that we ought to have in that. It does take years to cultivate. And so I think one of the things that maybe I'll touch on is having realistic expectations of what EM can and cannot do.
Right.
And one of the things I want to say is EM is connected to the Chinese ministry like your arm is connected to your torso.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the imagery of what it says in the Bible that the church is like we are the body of Christ. 那其实一个华人教会 is also like a body.
Right.
Like, for example, like the Chinese side is like the heart and the lungs and the stomach. And maybe the English side are the arms, and maybe the Taiwanese side are the legs, and it's all connected together. I think one of the wrong mindsets that I had as a new EM pastor was, oh, I want to just do EM independently and do it right because I want to be able to attract 外国人, Caucasians. And so I can't sound too Chinese. I can't be too connected to the Chinese side. I want EM to have an English name, and I want our services to be in different areas, and I want our own logo. We don't want to use the Chinese logo, and we don't want the Chinesey name and all that stuff. But I found out that it doesn't really work that way, at least at our stage of church life, because everything is so interconnected. If someone in the Chinese ministry is sick and they don't come to church, they're not bringing their youth, they're not bringing their kids, and attendance go down on the Chinese side, and it'll go down on the English side, and it'll go down on the children's ministry side. Vice versa. If there's一个新朋友，一个40-50岁的信主了，在华人堂，在国语堂， they're going to bring their kids, they're going to bring their youth, and then the attendance goes up on both sides. So what happens on one side impacts the other one positively and negatively. And so therefore, you can't really separate the two. It's really connected. And even though I thought, okay, 我把年轻人顾好就好，我把下一代顾好就好. It doesn't work that way either, because their faith is so interconnected with their parents' faith as well. 因为他们父母的 lifestyle also affects them. And so no matter if you're just like a youth pastor or English pastor, you have to also put in time to understand their parents on the Chinese side. Because if you don't, you're not going to understand why your young person is acting or behaving the way they are, because you don't understand their whole family dynamic. And so what I try to do is I try to, as much as they're allowed to do family visitations, I want to see their whole family dynamic. I want to see how parents and their youth or their children interact when they're at home, not just at church. 因为在教会大家都很客气，那在家里大家就会比较真实一点。How do you talk to each other? What are your values at home? How do you treat each other? That's what I want to know. That's what I want to find out. And so home visitations, I think, is very important for any worker on the English side to understand the whole family. Yeah. We have like 10 minutes left. I mean, 5 minutes left. Are there any questions that anybody want to ask? Yeah, George?
I have something that in my mind, but it bothered me many years ago. It no longer bothers me, but I still don't have an answer. At the time, we have, you know, a typical Chinese Christian church. So we say Chinese Bible church. So at the time that we're losing some of the younger children, and the church been talking about, let's change that C into something else, like Covenant Church or Calvary Church. And then there was almost like the church was split almost. So what's your take on that? Some of the Chinese churches, is that necessary to change the name? Like, Korean churches does it a lot, you know.
Right.
They don't call Korean church anymore. They call Covenant Church or you know.
Right.
Yeah. So what do you
Yeah.
take on that?
I think it depends on the life stage of your church. Because our denomination is relatively young. I mean, it's like 54 years old, but in light of history, that's pretty young denomination, right? And we've thought about name changes as well. But I really learned from the Japanese, because the Japanese also have been here for over 100 years. And what they have done, you know, in the early, like, I think 20s, 30s, 40s, they plant like first generation Japanese churches. And later on, World War II happens, you know, and so they have a different context. But like once it hits like the 70s and 80s, and they were also having this conversation, the Japanese churches, should we take out the word Japanese in our churches? Ended up the ones that changed their name, they survived. The ones that didn't change their name, a lot of them aged out and died out and closed the doors. But that's in a context that they've been in existence for like 60 years, you know, 70 years. And all the congregation people are really, you know, really in their older side. And so I take that to heart, you know. I think at a certain point in the future, the name probably needs to be changed.
Yes.
But I know that while there's still a strong Chinese population, Chinese speaking population, maybe at this stage, it doesn't need to be changed yet. But maybe in another generation or two, probably needs to be changed.
And I appreciate your insight on that, because after long discussion, the outcome was that let's wait until all the older congregation members pass away, that we will revisit the idea again. But until then, the strongest opposing it are the older generation, where the problem is.
Right. And in a way, we do want to honor the older generation, because they put their blood and sweat and everything into planning the church, you know. And in a way, they're the one that planted, they're the one that started the church. So we want to honor them. I understand that. Yeah. Okay, I think that's about it. It's time, so I don't want to keep anybody too long. But thank you so much for your time, and thank you for your sharing.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure to connect with you all. I'll just put my email in the chat. If there's any need to connect, please feel free to email me anything.
Sure.
Okay, pastor.casey@icloud.com. So God bless you. God bless your ministries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
林牧师，很感谢。
Okay, thank you. Okay, take care. Okay, see you on the other side. Okay.
Bye bye.
Pastor.